Welcome to Dress for Success's Going Places Network event on workforce development. I'm Mariama from LinkedIn.
I'm Clay S. Williams from Planning Enterprises.
I'm Anthony Parker from LVMH.
I'm Barbara Catalano from the Employment Information Center at Columbia University.
Every day, the retail trade employers, they struggle to attract and retain the best and the brightest employees. You think about retail, you think about merchandise floor, you think about low wage and a lack of growth potential. When in fact, today's retail trade careers are more than just the cashier, they're more than just the merchandise floor, they're much more than just the sales associate positions. They encompass information technology, marketing, communications, loss prevention, finance, and of course, merchandise sourcing. So how do we get everybody, how do we encourage everyone to make that mental paradigm shift, to really perceive the value proposition of these growing industries? Well, Dress for Success and GCU believe that change begins with open dialogue and candid conversation. I just was engaging in candid conversation about 2 days ago with 3 SVPs at a very major retailer. We were talking about entry-level positions. We were talking about how someone would really segue into the industry, the retail industry, bypassing and circumventing the entry-level positions. And I have to tell you, everyone turned and looked at me, 3 SVPs. And they turned and looked at me and they were like aghast, they were horrified. They were like, circumvent the merchandise floor. Oh my goodness, that's the heart of what we do. Everyone should be a part of the merchandise floor. That's where we should go first. Everyone should go there. And at the end of the day, one of the SVPs had to go and she told me her entire story. She told me that her belief lied around that the importance of going through the merchandise floor was to develop the ability, the skill set of being customer-centric. So at the end of the day, I think that to affect change, sometimes we have to knock down the barriers to involvement, right? Is it true? Do you have to come in at the merchandise floor to become customer-centric? Or can you come in as a mid-level retail employee? Can you come in directly as a senior manager and have that skill set already embedded within you? So, in an ever-changing world, how does one effectively navigate a career pathway in retail? That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear a candid conversation about. Once in the industry, how can an employee elevate their skill set and their status to become mid-level management? How can they jump towards becoming senior management? We can't have career stagnation happening. People are jumping out of the retail because they feel that they're becoming career stagnated. How can we help them to explore career pathways? At the end of the day, I hold firm to what Margaret Mead said. She basically said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. And indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
We're here to talk about workforce development and activating your network, and all of that really starts with having a strong LinkedIn profile. And to some people, that's super straightforward, but there are a bunch of little tips and tricks and different things that you can do with your profile to get you, more visibility and more interaction on the platform. Okay, so first off, start with a great headshot. So this photo, having a photo on LinkedIn, it makes you 14 times more likely to be found in search. So the difference is if they're looking for someone with all the same skills as you and you don't have a photo, you're gonna come up lower in the search than someone who does. And all it needs to be is a headshot. It should be current, it shouldn't be too fuzzy, it shouldn't be something that's cropped. Your profile is your first impression. So when someone looks at your profile and then meets you in person, it should look like the same person. So the next thing is the headline. So your headline defaults to your job title. And this is kind of your chance to, differentiate yourself and stand out from the crowd. So one of the things I recommend to people is think of it as your brand mantra. What are you passionate about? Do you have aspirations that you want to convey in your profile? If you have a title that's similar to other people, how are you going to differentiate yourself? If you're a sales executive or a marketer, are you an aspiring marketer who loves finance? Are you a UX designer, animal whisperer, and presentation guru? Put your personality in there. Get people to ask, that's interesting. What else? Get people to scroll down. That top card is kind of where everyone focuses. They look at the picture, they look at the headline, they look at your current work experience. If you say something enticing, then they're going to want to scroll down and move on to the summary. So for this summary, you want to try and aim for at least 40 words minimum. Stay away from buzzwords. Make sure you're explaining yourself. And I like to tell people to think of the summary in three different paragraphs, 3 different sentences, however long you want to write for. But I usually like to tell people to start off by telling people where you're coming from. Introduce yourself. How are you in the role that you're in right now? What's brought you to where you are today? What are your experiences, your roles, your passions that have led you to where you are? And then that middle paragraph, talk about where you are and what you enjoy doing there. Or what are you passionate about? What are your skills? Again, this is your summary. It's written in the first person, and it's your chance to tell your own story. And then that last paragraph, focus on your aspirations. What's your next play? What do you want to do next? A lot of you guys are job seekers. Maybe you want to transition into a completely different field. Maybe you want to continue to be in the same field that you're in and just progress up the corporate ladder. Let people know that right on your profile so that when they are approaching you for opportunities, they already know where you stand. So next is detailing your past work experience. And by including details in your past work experience, you're 12 times more likely to appear in searches than other people. So this section, along with your summary section, even though I don't know why that picture did not develop, it supports rich media. So rich media is anything from photos, blog posts, a website. It's just more visual. It makes it more engaging, more interactive on your summary. So if you've ever filmed a video or been in a video or written a paper, written a blog post, that's something that you can put directly on your profile. And I like to tell people to focus on the scale, scope, and impact of their work experience. You can put it in any format you want to, bullets, sentences, paragraphs, whatever feels comfortable, but make sure you're able to convey the scale, scope, and impact of your work experience. Next up, we have our skills and endorsements section. I tell people to have at least 10 because everyone has tons of skills, right? And that's everything from interpersonal skills, software that you're familiar with, super basic things. Even people put Microsoft Word. And then you can also get endorsed for those skills. You can rearrange the skills. People ask me, how do you get endorsements for your skills? And I say, it's sort of like any other social media platform. If you go to someone else's page and endorse them, they're likely to come back to your page and endorse you. And you can also hide people's endorsements. So if your grandma thinks you're amazing at social media marketing, that might not be relevant. So you might want to hide that. But yes, you can change the order of them and you can hide the endorsements. Lastly is including volunteer experience and your causes that you care about. So this section makes you 6 times more likely to be found in searches. And when we interviewed hiring managers, 41% of them said that they value volunteer experience equal to work experience. Just because you didn't get paid for an opportunity doesn't mean that the skills that you acquired in that role are not beneficial to, future opportunities. It's also a great way to transition careers. If you have no experience in finance because you're coming from a marketing role but you love numbers, you can volunteer in a role, and that will be the experience that you'll be able to bring to your next role. And then also with your causes section, you're able to show the different causes that you support: women's initiatives, environmental initiatives, children's initiatives, and there are a lot of nonprofits on LinkedIn looking for people to be a part of their board and looking for volunteers to, be a part of their organization. So do not neglect the volunteers and causes section if you can help it. So those are my 6 profile tips for the day. I think it's time for the panel. Thank you.
So I want to start with maybe something that on the surface doesn't feel completely on topic, but in fact might be the very foundation. And I'm going to start with you, Clay. So much of a person in an entry-level position or even somewhat established but looking for a way up starts from within, a self-motivation, a sense of self-worth. How is it that before we begin to look outwardly, you would advise somebody to look inwardly and what they would need to understand perhaps about themselves and their opportunities before they start building a network and developing themselves within a workforce?
All right, great. So just to kind of level set that answer, I've worked with people who are managing partners, managing directors, all the way to a Met Opera singer. And so there is a commonality within all of us that there is a worth issue or there's insecurities that we all have. And I had the honor this year of coaching and facilitating 3 Going Places networks for Dress for Success. And every single solitary cohort, the number one thing that was a growth edge for all of the cohorts was, how do I network when I'm so insecure about my socioeconomic status? How do I actually make connection with someone when there's all these different things that I'm trying to grapple with that person I'm sitting in front of is probably maybe not their story. And so what I would normally do with these ladies, and my advice to a lot of you, is to kind of create a twofold list. One side, what are my sort of insecurities? What are some of the things that I maybe find a little bit difficult when I am trying to network with someone? On the other side of that is, if my insecurities, if these things were not an issue, if the things that really make me uncomfortable, who is it that I would want to be at the table with? What are the conversations that I would want to have? Who is it that I would invite for a courtesy 15-minute conversation? Who is it that I would want to ask for an informational interview? And I would challenge the ladies week by week to start off with 2 people, then the next week 3 people, then 4, and 5, because what you want to do is you want to strengthen that insecurity muscle. You want to make sure that you challenge yourself through action steps. It's not enough for you to sit and say, you know, here's my affirmation, I believe this, I'm going to do this. You actually have to combat it by challenging yourself, and then you will learn how to deal with this issue of work through a challenging everyday effort.
Wonderful. I need to do that with sit-ups, so we're going to have a conversation later. So it brings me to an often maligned segment or opportunity that I want to talk about, because I learned something tonight. It's one of the best part about moderating is you come away with the most information, so you should all be jealous right now. Barbara, talk to us a little bit about the temp to permanent opportunity, and especially how, whether entry level or early entry, it's maybe not just an opportunity, but really a strategy.
I've found, and I coach a lot of people come to me, a lot of college students who really don't have a ton of work experience, and they're just like, I have this great degree and I can't find an opportunity. And some people are afraid to go the temporary route. And what they don't realize is it's a place where you can learn a lot, gain a lot of skills, and prove yourself. It's basically a working interview. So whether it's, and I'll share this really brief story. A friend of mine reached out to me and said, my friend's nephew is looking for a job, okay? I met with him and he wouldn't even look me in the eye. He had just gotten out of college. And I put him on a 2-week temporary assignment at the law school, which turned into, he is now a director at the law school, got his master's degree through Columbia gratis, got married, had a kid, bought a house up in Westchester, and that was a great success story. And this was someone who was literally at the time, 7 years ago, pounding the pavement, literally going into businesses, dropping off resumes. And he just, he went, he did it, and they saw what he was capable of. And they then started looking for opportunities because he was on a temporary assignment and he was finishing up. That 3-week assignment turned into a 2-month assignment. And then when he was ready to leave, his manager said, hey, someone down the hall is looking for an administrative assistant. And he made the connection, and they hired him, and that was ultimately it.
I want to talk a little bit collectively about sort of the new. Obviously, social media is becoming very active, but in terms of networking generally, when you think about recruitment, when you think about coaching, when you think about profiling yourself and your opportunities, what are some of the new issues, the new challenges, the new trends, if you will, in networking, in building a global community, and whether that's I'm unemployed looking for work, or I'm gainfully employed but looking to make maybe a more radical change? How does it differ than 5 years ago, 10 years ago? What are some of the things that you're seeing in the work that you do that are emerging, and how can we learn from that opportunity?
Okay, so I guess I'm going to start.
All right.
All right. So many things. Again, I think a lot of it does sort of stem from LinkedIn. I think one of the first trends is people are afraid of networking. it's a scary
Why?
thing.
Why? What is the
right.
fear?
The fear is walking up to a stranger that you don't know and potentially asking them for a favor, right? So I think with this digital age, we have kind of set it up so that introverts can succeed. You can kind of be behind a computer screen and still network successfully. You know, you can see everything about the person on their LinkedIn profile. You can look for commonalities in, you know, whether it's their volunteer experience or past companies or connections that you have in common. You can now see, you know, I want to work at Google. Let me see if there's someone in my network that works at Google who can set up an introduction. And that's all in the comfort of my own home on my couch with the TV going on.
Maybe even in my pajamas.
Definitely in my pajamas. So that's one thing I see. So introverts are winning in the new networking age. The other thing is visibility. So, you know, networking, you think of actively going to all these different events and, you know, trying to meet people and swap business cards. But with social media, with LinkedIn, it's about sharing articles and giving your opinion on an article that you read. You know, writing a blog post, whether it's on the publishing platform on LinkedIn or externally, and showing yourself and positioning yourself as a thought leader. So a lot of people are getting new opportunities just because of their activity on LinkedIn, not even necessarily directly reaching out for opportunities, just by increasing their visibility. So I could go on, but this is a collective conversation.
You know, I definitely want to add to this. LinkedIn is amazing. I use it 100%. But 10 years ago, when I started recruiting, I wasn't using LinkedIn. It was like I would sit and wait for people to apply into this applicant tracking system. However, now I'm looking more for a passive candidate, or candidates that have the right profile, but they might not have seen the job posting. So as much as I love LinkedIn, I really encourage people to, within LinkedIn, you can join groups.
Yep.
When you have a free account, which everyone can have a free account, you can join up to 50 groups. Join the groups that interest you, that are the same type of people that you're trying to network with for the right type of career that you're trying to seek out. The second other social media is, never thought I would use it, as Facebook. Create groups. If there are groups out there, you can search for a group. It's like the fan page. If you follow Mariah Carey, you can now be, you know, Brooklyn's mothers looking for work. You've now created a group. You monitor the group. Now it's a group of networkers. I might be looking for a nanny, not now, but just say in Brooklyn, this would be a perfect group for me to search in. So now I search, for example, I have an IT position. I look at Facebook for the IT groups. So groups are really important. And then I like to see people have conversations and post things within those groups to see how really relevant they are and what they're adding to those particular groups.
You're both saying, you know, very different things. The common thread is that you have an opportunity to paint yourself however you choose to paint yourself, to sort of create a part of you or extract and put out a part of you. Because of these platforms, and dive in a little bit further. Clay, please.
Yeah, I would definitely say beyond the social media piece, just really being social. One of the ladies from the last cohort that we coached, her laptop crashed, and so I had so many different assignments that I needed her to complete in a timely fashion. So she came to the group, she said, I don't have a laptop, and so we all collectively got together, her network within the cohort, and we said, well, are you reaching out to this person? You're going to the library. So the library is only 45 minutes, it's not enough time. And so another lady said, well, have you checked out the parent resource coordinator at your school where your kids are? She ended up going to her school, and they ended up loaning her a laptop, a Mac notebook, for a 6-month period of time. And not only was she able to learn a new Mac OS system, now the school knew she was looking for a job. So they started sending her resume out to different people. And so I just want to make sure that beyond the social media platform, that you're leveraging your networks within your community. If you are not opening your mouth and kind of saying to the people who are around you, who kind of see you every day, this is what I need, sometimes you're unable to actually move forward.
I want to talk about a horrible subject, and that is resumes. It's sort of the bane of so many of our existences. And let's start with sort of the first community, sort of the entry level. And I want to start on the bad side, because we often learn life's greatest lessons by doing it wrong, right? So at least we never forget those. What are some of the things that just make you curdle when you see? What are the biggest challenges out there? You probably see a whole lot of resumes, Anthony. What are the no-nos?
Yes, totally. when I'm up to 30 to 40 recs, 30 to 40 open positions, I can look through 300 to 400 resumes a day. So,
Wow.
so first of all, please, and I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, please don't submit your resume for a job that you clearly are not qualified for. Because you're thinking, well, I just want someone to see it. I'm looking for this profile. You have nothing that fits this profile. I'm gonna look at this resume, and now, yes, I'm gonna remember it as the person who can't follow directions, who, you know, and I'm like, I've X'd this person, kind of blacklist this person, even when the right opportunity does open. So that's the first thing. But on a lighter note, definitely, you know, keep it short, simple. I love seeing accomplishments as bullet points. No misspell words. If you do a cover letter, or it doesn't need to be long and detailed, or if you do it in an email format, you don't have to attach two things. The email introduction, and I'm okay with cut and paste because I know as you're searching for multiple opportunities, you use a standard, you know, cover letter. Hi, I saw the opportunity posted. Please change the company last name to the new company. Do not.
Don't call me Barbara.
You can just say, Dear Human Resources. Leave it general. But when you start saying, I saw your opportunity for Gucci, I'm like, X'd out, not the right company. I'm glad that you're, you know, looking at our competitors, but just make sure that's right. So attention to detail, quickly highlight a few successes. Love to hear about accomplishments. And when it comes to a resume, it doesn't need to read like a job description. So if you're an administrative assistant, yeah, I know you answered phones, took message, et cetera, but I want to see that your accomplishments of the role that you did when you were in that. Then I'm like, wow, you know, then that's where the wow comes. No longer address is needed, take that off. I just need contact information, phone number and email and name.
I always tell people with their resume, you never want to give someone an opportunity to take that resume and put it here. You want your resume on the top of the pile. So anything, like you said, a typo, if my job requirement is this person has to pay good attention, strong attention to detail, and you just submitted a resume with a typo on it, that's why you have everybody read your resume and make sure it is impeccable. That is definitely, because that is something that I will definitely pass on.
And for people transitioning too, I definitely want to say this. I totally support that. You've been 20 plus years in one industry and you want to transition to something else, state that. Say that, you know, I know you're looking for X number of skills or years of requirement. However, while I was housekeeper at a hotel for 25 years, I built customer service skills. You know, I would be great as a receptionist or a front desk, et cetera. So kind of state that and I go, okay, yes, I love transferable skills.
Okay. So talk to me, Clay, or talk to us about the emotional content. What do you often see, and maybe it's the same security issues, but I'm now putting together my vitae. I'm putting my life on a piece of paper professionally, and maybe that's somewhat limited. I don't have a tremendous skill base yet. How do I communicate who I am as a person? What are the elements that I need to concentrate on in preparing something that is going to reach out into a network and represent me?
I think volunteering. I think people discount their volunteer experience. You work for this organization, you work for this particular person, and we do not think of it as valuable experience, and we need to start putting that much, putting it on our resumes and CVs. It's a great representation of who you are, some of the skill sets that you have acquired, some of your transferable skills into opportunities that you're looking for.
Understanding that I'm looking to create connections. What are the things that I'm thinking about, whether it's the mood or the face I want to project or the content? What are the things that I'm thinking about as I sit down before I get up and go out there?
That's a really good question. Maybe one of the first things that I'm thinking about is that when I'm trying to network with someone, there's mutual benefit between me getting to know someone and someone getting to know me.
People forget to network, and they forget to plan for it. And if you don't put it on your calendar, it's not happening. I think planning is really important.
Yeah, on that note, I think it's also really important to know what you want to get out of networking, whether it's, to transition fields or just to build your network in general. You need to know where you kind of want to go with your network.
The last thing I have to say for networking is follow through is key. When you meet someone, it might not be the right time today, but in the next 6-8 months, next year, I've hired a young lady 6 times in her career. I've moved her around. Oh, wow. Yeah, and she followed through, she reaches out, etc. So,
Really inspiring group you all are, and thank you so much for your time.
The thing I got that was most compelling for me was how all of the panelists talked so much about the value of social media. LinkedIn, I thought it was important. Now I know it's important. It's something that I can take back to my clients at my organization to reinforce the importance of that social media presence.
It gave me the more background that I need to make my coaching more successful.
So my top recommendation for building connections is going to a social event and not being afraid to ask someone for a 15-minute courtesy chat to learn more about what they do.
My top recommendation for using LinkedIn is to have a complete profile and always be present on the platform.
my advice for building connections is using social media and personal connections.
My top recommendation for building and nurturing connections is to plan and schedule. Don't assume you're going to do it. You have to take the time and actually put it on your calendar, because if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen.